And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so delighted to welcome back for the second year in a row the incredible New York Times best-selling Anthony Horowitz, known for such incredible books as The Magpie Murders and many, many others, here to give us the scoop on his brand new red hot book, A Line to Kill, out tomorrow. Anthony, welcome back. Tell us about this book.
Well, first of all, Sarah, thank you so much for having me back again on Murder by the Book. It's such a pleasure to be talking to you again. And where do I start with the book? Well, it is number 3 in the series. It began with The Word is Murder and then The Sentence is Death. So it's me and Hawthorne. And this time the book begins with us going to a literary festival, but one with a difference because it's on a very tiny little island just off the south coast of England, a place called Alderney, which exists, of course. And I was told many, many times when I visited it that no domestic murder has ever taken place on Alderney. And that changes pretty much the moment we arrive.
So when they said no murder has ever been committed here, did you think to yourself, gauntlet cast, challenge accepted?
Exactly. I went to Alderney about 3 or 4 years ago, in fact, and I had a wonderful time there. It is the most peculiar little place because it's only 3 miles long and about a mile wide. I think about 10,000 people live there, and so much history has taken place there. It's absolutely filled with fortresses built at the time of Napoleon by Queen Victoria, and then built also at the time by the Germans in the Second World War. It was occupied by the Germans, by the Nazis in World War II, which is why I say carefully that there have been no domestic murders there. In fact, many people did, I'm afraid, die on the island during the war. But that's what the islanders said to me. You know, when I arrived, they said, Anthony, there's never been a murder here. And it was exactly what you said, a challenge. Now I'm going to change it.
Because for those of you familiar with Anthony's work, he is known to have perhaps committed more fictitious murders than anyone else currently on planet Earth. So he likes to slice and dice them. Anthony, I can't wait to get into every single detail of this book. But first, I just want to welcome all of our friends and fans who are watching on Facebook, who are watching on YouTube, watching on Murder by the Book, watching on my channels. Thanks for the hearts, you guys, watching in my private Facebook group, Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Wherever you're watching from, welcome or welcome back. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome. We're so delighted to have you. Here's the drill. Every Monday for #Mystery Monday, I give you my hand-picked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. This is your chance to ask the extraordinary, the lauded, the incredibly talented Anthony Horowitz anything you like about his writing process, about his lovable rascal of a character, the detective we all know, himself in the book. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions, and I know you do too. So just get them going in the comments, and I will get them right over to Anthony. I want to welcome Pat, welcome Linda, welcome Rebecca, welcome Gwen, welcome Leslie from Canada, giving us her Canadian hello. Leslie, top Mystery and Thriller Maven member there. Great to have you back. So we've got people in Canada, we've got people in London. Anthony joining us live from London. I'm in Boston. Wherever you're watching from, welcome. So Anthony, let's get into this book. So I had the wonderful fortune to live in London for a while. I traveled all over the lovely country. I never made it to Alderney. And I had to, when you were talking, when you were writing, thanks for the hearts, you guys. Thank you. When you were writing about it, and I'm reading it, and I'm loving, I love your books. They're so fabulous. I'm reading about it, and so I started Googling about this island, because first of all, I didn't even know this island existed. I knew from the Gurney Society, the Sweet Potato Pie book, which I loved, that there were these outlying islands, which were, played a very big part in World War II. I didn't know about this one. I didn't know the Germans took it over. They actually put some camps there. So many people did tragically perish, all of which I learned through your book and then my own research. So tell us about your research process. How did you research this book?
Well, Sarah, first of all, I went there. I mean, that was really my research. Okay. I went there as an author to give a talk about my books. Some school kids actually wrote to me and said, Anthony, will you please come and talk to us at our school? And they said to me, if you come here, you'll find there are lots of Roman, blue telephone boxes, and no fish and chips on Fridays. And I thought, well, that is the weirdest invitation I've ever had. I've got to go. But once I was there, I listened. When I'm traveling, one of the great joys of being a writer is I meet so many people, and they tell me stories about the islands and about their lives and about everything that's around them, and I absorb it. I don't use people themselves. I don't put people in my books necessarily, but I do take the ideas that they give me, and then I begin to research them. I read books, I go on the internet, I go to different societies and ask questions. And this whole thing about the sort of Nazi occupation of Alderney and of the Channel Islands, which is incidentally very dark, and I had to treat it quite carefully because my book is an entertainment. I don't want to get into all that sort of grimness of detail and such. But other things, like, for example, the fact that they're about to start building this power line across the island. The whole island is divided and will be cut in half, actually, by this cable that is going to bring electricity, cheap electricity, from France to Great Britain. It's in real life, it's called NAB, N-A-B, Normandy, Alderney, Britain. I fictionalized it by turning it into FAB, France, Alderney, Britain. But nonetheless, the same idea is there, but it's a perfect reason to divide an island, to cause people to fight with each other, and perhaps to lead to murder, a line to kill. So that's where that came from. And there's plenty of research out there. The internet is such a wonderful device, not only for bringing me together with you and with your wonderful readers in America, but also for finding out anything I want to know about what's happening on a place like Alderney.
Very, very cool. So, Anthony, one of the many things I love about your book, about all of your books, is you have such a wonderfully witty sense of humor. So let's start with the fact that you broke one of the cardinal rules of writing, which is you put yourself in the book. This is not a memoir, and yet you are in the book. And this just goes to show you that these golden rules perhaps are meant to be broken, because you did it with such a deft hand and it works so well. So let's talk about, and of course, this is not your first time putting yourself in the book, but why at some 54, 55, 56 books into your extraordinary career, why did you make the choice to put yourself in? Walk us through that and tell us about this lovable rapscallion character that is yourself.
Well, Sarah, I think you put it, you answered your own question away when you talked about breaking the rules. I mean, when I write a whodunit, I want to do something that's never been done before. I'm trying to break the rules to change things, to change people's perception. Why do we read murder mystery, and what is the nature of a murder mystery? By putting myself into the book, I was able to ask those questions, because this was the thing. When my publisher wanted me to write a series of murder mysteries, I started thinking about the detective and realized that every single detective you can imagine has been done. Male, female, tall, short, foreign, British, a robot detective, a vampire detective, a dead detective, a ghost detective, they've all been done. But what hasn't been done, I think, or not done very often, is this idea that the narrator is the author. But in other words, instead of being the cleverest person in the book, Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, P.D. James, whoever, I become the stupidest person in the book, which is to say, the sidekick, the person who knows nothing. And the whole situation changes. I have this strange relationship with Detective Hawthorne, who is not the easiest person to get along with, but I am tied to him, because if he doesn't solve the crime, I don't have a book. And that, therefore, it turns everything on its head. And that's why I did it, to be different. But that said, I want people to understand that I am not sort of an egotistical, famous, clever writer inside this book saying, look at me, I'm just the narrator. I am Watson to Hawthorne's Holmes. I'm on the side there, but it does change all the rules.
Yes, so you are Watson to Hawthorne, who is a bit abrupt, he doesn't stop and share information. He's not going to walk you through it. He's going to leave you having breakfast by yourself, tucking into your bacon and eggs, and he's going to scowl at you over a cup of black coffee and then go off and investigate and leave you sitting by yourself, which I absolutely love. So are you ever tempted to make your character a bit more Holmes and a little less Watson?
The worst thing you haven't said about him, which makes me so angry, is he calls me Tony. Nobody calls me Tony, but he insists on it's always Tony this or mate or whatever. I do find that very irritating. No, I'm not. Listen, the thing about Hawthorne, I think the fun of these books is that something turned him into this difficult human being. I think that we're all what we are for a reason. It goes to our childhood, to our history, to our upbringing, to our nature, and to our nurture. All these things make us what we are, and something mysterious and not good happened to Hawthorne when he was a kid. And this book, the third in the series, is beginning to tell us a little bit about what that was. It's something to do with a village in Yorkshire and to do with his parents, perhaps, but we're not yet finding out. And part of my joy in the books, or part of my mission in the books, is to try and discover the truth about him. But the other thing I will say about him is this, is that as difficult he is, I can't help liking him. I don't think it is possible to read a book, a detective story, in which the central character of a detective is not in some ways likable. And I think there is a vulnerability to Hawthorne. I think there is a sadness to him, a sense almost of loneliness and loss that clings to him. And the fact that I like him and can't help liking him, I hope will help the readers to like him. Because, you know, that's the secret also of the Sherlock Holmes novels. Holmes is a difficult character. He's distant, he's untidy, he's aloof. He takes drugs. He's very moody, but Watson always likes him. Watson has this loyalty towards him, his friendship. I always say that the Sherlock Holmes novels are stories of the greatest friendship in British literature, Holmes and Watson. And that, I hope, is what's developing slowly between Hawthorne and myself.
Yes, exactly. And I want to talk to you about how you write this character who is yes, lovable, but hard to love. Jody saying hello from Texas. Yay.
Hello, Jody.
Hi, Jody. Welcome. Thank you so much for watching with us. Welcome to Marcy, to Sarah, to Erin, to Lisa, to Madeline, to Geraldine, to Linda, to Luca, Donna, Rose, Rebecca. Welcome, everybody. So great to have you here. So you write this character Hawthorne, he's hard to love, and yet we love him because he's got sharp edges. He can be cutting, and yet, as you said, there is a vulnerability. And I just want to take care of him, you know, and get to know him. I want to be the adoring Watson, but I don't want to be ignored and left alone at breakfast. So from a craft perspective, how do you write someone who is both hard to love and yet lovable? Like, how do you not just make him completely mean? How do you do that?
It's funny. It's a very good question. How do I do that? I don't know. I guess it's first of all, by liking him myself. It's not a hard task I've set myself. You know, here is a man who lives in an empty apartment in the middle of London, which doesn't belong to him. He's borrowed it from someone, and we don't quite know how. And he spends his time making little models of aircraft and army vehicles of one sort or another from Second World War. And he's got a tragic past of some sort. And all these things make him somebody I'm interested in and want to understand. He doesn't do anything to hurt anybody in these books. On the contrary, in this new one, A Line to Kill, he's given a very interesting moral dilemma at the end of the story where the killer says, "Are you sure it is fair to turn me in?" And he has to sort of work out why he is a detective, why he does, what is his sort of moral compass. And I think this makes him interesting and sympathetic. The only person I think in the books that he is really horrible to is me. And so I can, if I can live with it, the reader certainly can.
It's so true. He is mean to you, to our other lovable character. So Anthony, I love your sense of humor. It is exactly my sense of humor. It's so witty and so dry. And one of my favorite scenes is early on in the book where your character, which is you, is sitting in a meeting with his publisher. And the editor says, "Well, you're not going to write about us, are you?" And you say, "Of course not." But the irony, the sort of meta moment, is that we're reading the book where you lied. We're reading that moment, so we know that your character has lied, and it's just so layered upon layer of it's so clever and it's so funny because we know you're winking at us, the reader, that we know that not only are you lying to this guy, we're reading that moment. I mean, it's just so fabulous and so funny.
But you know it's so lovely to point that moment out, because I did love writing that scene at my publisher's house. My publishers instead all loved it too. In fact, everybody at my publishing house, I actually changed the names. I mean, there's no real names in that chapter of my publishers, but everybody thinks there's a character that's based on them in that particular sequence. And I don't come out of it too well as usual either. I mean, my favorite moment in that particular chapter is when an assistant comes up to me and says, "You know, I so loved your last book, High Fidelity." And her boss whispers to her, no, that's the next meeting. And she's got the wrong writer. And it's the sort of thing that happens in a writer's life that you have to sort of smile about. But the important word here is smile. It's all done with a smile.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness, everybody, hold your beer. Spencer Cope has entered the chat, real life detective and best-selling crime fiction author. Spencer Cope, who I just hosted 2 weeks ago, has entered the chat. Spencer, welcome. So great to have you. He's saying, my favorite Anthony Horowitz book so far was Moriarty. Just brilliant. I also loved The Magpie Murders. Spencer,
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much, Spencer, for that message. Since you pointed up, I'll say that first of all, I love Moriarty too. I think, Moriarty is a book about an evil man, and my aim there was to write an evil book. And so that's what that book is. If you ever read it, you're meant to get to the end and you're meant to say, oh, how could you have done this to me? So that was the thing about Moriarty. Since you mentioned Magpie Murders, I would like to mention that we've just finished filming that now. It's going to be shown next year by PBS. I think it's Masterpiece Theatre. And it's got the absolutely wonderful Leslie Manville in the lead, playing Susan, the editor. And I've been watching it all for the last 3 or 4 months. I've been watching sort of the final cut of the 6 episodes. It is going to be wonderful. So I'm glad you like the book. I hope you get to see the TV.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Congratulations, Anthony. Spencer, I'm curious, as a real life detective and a best-selling author of crime fiction yourself, tell us what you loved about Magpie Murders. Because I loved Magpie Murders. I loved Moonflower Murders. And I loved both of those books. I'm loving A Line to Kill. I know what I love about them, but tell us what you love. I'd be very curious for, excuse me, a real life detective and a best-selling author. Tell us from your perspective. E Truck is saying, speaking of breaking the rules, I also love your 2 Susan Ryland mysteries. It's like getting 2 wonderful different books for the price of one. I love the Agatha-like inner books. I hope you do more. So E, I love that too. Susan Ryland is such a fabulous character. And then when I got to the acknowledgments, Susan Ryland is your real life editor, Anthony.
Well,
Tell us
she
about
was
that.
inspired, actually. She was inspired by my editor, whose name was Susan Lamb. And
Oh,
I
that's
play
funny.
lots of little. No, you don't. You're forgiven for not getting it right, because I love playing games and playing tricks with names and with all sorts of things. And a Ryland is a breed of lamb. Susan Lamb, my dear editor. So I changed her name into that. But just to answer E. Chuck's comment, hope you do more. Yes, there's a 3rd one on its way. Not for a little while, because I am doing another Hawthorne next, a 4th one in the Hawthorne series. And when I finish that, the next book after that is going to be my 3rd Susan Ryland, and probably the last in that series.
So, Anthony, you're already talking about your next 2 books in 2 different series. So let's just stay with E. Truck's fabulous comment. Thanks for joining us again. How far out are you plotting? So you're working on your next Hawthorne now, but then you've also got a Susan Ryland coming up. So let's hear a little more about how you're both doing both of those, and what this next Susan, can you give us a glimpse of what's going to happen in the next Susan Ryland?
I think I can give you a little hint about that, yeah. But let me just say this, since to answer the first part of your question. This afternoon, until this call began, I was editing my new Bond novel, because I've written a 3rd James Bond novel, which is another series of books which are outside my crime writing, and in a way they're sort of, they're a passion project, because I've always loved James Bond, and I just had to do them. And the Ian Fleming estate asked me to do them, so I said yes. And that will be finished quite soon. Then, as I say, I shall start. I'm working now on Hawthorne 4, which is quite a long way down the line in terms of I know who the murderer is, I know who is murdered, I know how this thing works. Then after that, I've got 2 more Hawthorne books sort of half planned in my head, because there are going to be 11 or 12 of them in total. And then I've been thinking about a new Magpie Murders sequel, because the TV show is so good. We'll almost certainly, I say fingers crossed, hopefully we will make Moonflower Murders as well. Leslie is very, very keen to do it. So that'll happen. And then just maybe it'll help the production company if there's a 3rd one on its way as well. So I'm thinking about doing something which is a little bit different, which is just this time maybe not going back so far into the past for the book within the book. I mean, I love doing that and doing sort of the golden age, but the trick is not to repeat myself, not to do the same thing too often. So this time, maybe Susan, working as an editor, is editing a book that is not written by Alan Conway, but which is a little more modern. And so it will be a little bit different to the one that I've done before.
Ooh, more Monk. Okay, we are here for it. This is very cool. Spencer saying the story within a story element of Magpie Murders was interesting and expertly done. So many ways something like that could go wrong, but Anthony just wove it all together. Spencer, yes, it was so cool. I mean, I don't even know how you would possibly percolate that kind of book in your brain where there is this story within a story. Susan sits down with her Doritos, her chips, and her wine, and she's editing the book, which we then get to read through hers. But then there's this other element with Alan Conway, the author himself, and her. So, from a craft perspective, Anthony, your brain is clearly firing on all cylinders because you've got all of these books, percolating and creating all at once. But how did you actually come up with these book within a book from an execution standpoint? Are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Do you go from percolating right to typing? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Spencer for his very kind comment. And his last words, weaving it all together, is more or less how it is. I mean,
yeah.
When I write these books, I sometimes think I'm like a telephone engineer with two cables, and there are like 50 or 60 different connections that all have to be made if the book is going to work. When I get there to the end of the book, I'm bringing them together, and hopefully, thank goodness, yes, it works and everything makes sense. But the idea of the book within the book came about because I was very interested in writing about the nature of murder mysteries, and it allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
By having a character, Alan Conway, who is a writer of murder mystery, I was able to ask questions like, why do we read these books? Why is it that a murder in the street or a murder in a community in real life would horrify and upset us, but in a book, it's entertainment, it's fun. You yourself said that I've committed more murders than anybody on the planet, and that's a good thing. But if it wasn't on paper, if it was not fictitious, if all those murders had been real, I would be a monster, and I don't think you'd be having this interview with me right now. So I'm interested in why that is. How does murder become entertainment? Why is it that during this, this terrible lockdown that we've all endured, sales of books rose so really quite substantially? That I understand. But the genre that rose most was crime. It was murder mystery that sort of peaked during the pandemic. Why is that? Why do we find comfort in these stories? What is it about the detective story that brings us such pleasure? These are questions I was able to ask by having a book inside the book.
Yes, exactly. I have been fascinated to see that during lockdown, murder mysteries have taken off in an industry where that is struggling to survive. The printed word. Mysteries are thriving, and why is that? Because exactly as you said, if someone was murdered in any sort of way, grisly or not, we would be horrified, we'd be devastated, we'd be heartbroken. And yet within the covers of your book, we feel safe in this world of murder. And it's an interesting, two different facts to try to reconcile in our brains. And I think you said it exactly right. This is such a fascinating conversation. Thank you. Marcy's chiming in. She said, a good example of an unlikable but lovable character is Manon Bradshaw in the Susie Steiner series. Very cool, Marcy. I'm not familiar with that. Thank you for bringing that up. Great to have you here, Mystery and Thriller Maven member there. Thank you.
I like that phrasing, Teddy. Unlikable but lovable. That's exactly what you're aiming for. That's absolutely the sort of the formula, I think. Yeah.
And Anthony, when you're writing Hawthorne, do you ever vary into just purely unlikable and then someone, Susan Lamb or you've shared that your wife is a early reader? Do they ever say, no, you've gone too far? I have to reel you back in.
Actually, I have a wonderful editor, Selena Walker, at Penguin Random House in London here, and she's very good at spotting those moments. I mean, one of the things that was quite interesting was that when I wrote A Line to Kill, I delivered it to Selena. She read it and she loved it, but she said, there are moments when it's a little bit dark, a little bit sort of sad even. This relationship doesn't feel quite as fun as it is. And I realized that what had happened was that just the lockdown, COVID, the fear of what we were living through had in a little way seeped into the book. So I had to make changes in order to make sure that everything, you were asking, why is it that these books, murder mysteries, have been so important during the last 2 years. And I think it is because they, at the end of the day, they provide comfort and happiness. At the end of a murder mystery, everything has been resolved. You know who the killer was. You know why the murder happened. The community where this took place has healed itself. The detective comes, he waves his magic wand, he comes up with the answers, and he or she, of course, leaves again. And I think that that is absolutely crucial to it. And you cannot have doubt, uncertainty. You cannot, I think, have negative emotions inside this because it just won't work. For me, it has to be murder with a smile.
Murder with a smile. Ooh, could that be the next title of your book, Anthony?
That's not bad, is it? Actually, I might use that.
Can I please get it? Can I get it? Can I get a tiny
Definitely. You'll get an acknowledgement.
Oh my goodness. The incredible Laurel Wallison, a fashion thought leader, has entered the chat. She said, I love a great masterpiece production. Congratulations, Anthony. How exciting.
Thank you, Laurel. That's very kind of you. Yeah, it is exciting. I can't wait for you to see it because, you know, when you're making a TV show, and I did the adaptation instantly into 6 hours from this enormous book down into sort of 6 1-hour episodes. You never really know if it's going to work out or not. You just don't know. It's like tossing a coin and you hope it's going to come down heads every time. And if it comes down tails, maybe it'll go wrong. In this case, everything went right. The casting, the music, the direction. It's directed by a man called Peter Cattaneo, who did The Full Monty, if you remember that wonderful movie all those years ago. And he was a joy to work with and got the best out of me, the best out of my writing. I can't tell you how excited I am. I can't wait for you to see it.
Yay, I love it. And I loved The Full Monty. I was actually living in London when that movie came out. And talk about funny and wonderfully witty and also, you know, really tuning into the heart of that community and rooting for the underdog. It had all of those elements. Anthony, how involved did you get to be in the filming? Did you get to be involved in casting? Did you get to be involved in production? Walk us through that.
I didn't get involved in production at all this time because of the pandemic. I wasn't able to visit the set. It wasn't possible. Normally, I would spend a lot of time on the set. I'd meet the actors and I'd come to meetings. We had to have the read through over Zoom. We weren't even allowed to come into the same room together. And I think what is extraordinary about the production is how you don't realize it was shot during the lockdown. That, you know, it doesn't look like that. It looks, you know, it was so difficult to do it. My wife, Jill Green, incidentally, was the producer of the show. And I used to see her every day on the phone sort of battling problems because if, you know, it was always one person sneezes and everything locks down. So it was an enormously difficult thing to do, but somehow the humor and the warmth of the piece just shines through.
I love that. That's really, really cool. All right, I'm just scrolling through, making sure I didn't miss anybody's comments because I'm loving this lively conversation. Laurel saying she will definitely be watching. Laurel, thanks so much for joining us today and chiming in. This is fantastic. All right, we have a few minutes left with Anthony. So any questions for Anthony, get them going in the chat. I see you all watching on YouTube and Facebook. This is so great. Welcome, Donna. Welcome, Erin. Welcome, Evelyn. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome, Lisa, Andrew, Patty, Vicky, Janice, Mike. Oh my goodness, everybody. It's so great to have you. Joanne, Jen, Elizabeth, Anne Marie. So great to have you. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Catherine would like to know what has been the most difficult. Catherine, first of all, welcome. So great to see you here, top community member. She said, what has been the most difficult part of writing yourself as a character and the most fun or surprising? Great question, Catherine.
God, you know, it's a difficult question to answer. What has been the most difficult part of writing myself as a character? I guess it was avoiding anything that would make me sound either too smart ass, too clever, too sort of you know, I didn't want to come across as sort of as you know, look how many books I've sold type thing. But at the same time, I didn't want to come across as too stupid either. I mean, you know, I managed to get myself stabbed in 2 of the books, and it couldn't happen a 3rd time, for example. So that was it, getting the balance right there. The most fun or surprising thing, do you know, it's that people like the character in the book, but that it's worked. I guess that you know, that people have accepted it. Because at the end of the day, my publisher was quite nervous. You know, would people buy into this idea that the author of the book is a character in the book? And I think that the most fun and the most surprising aspect of it has been that people, yes, have bought into that idea and have enjoyed it and have liked the Anthony who is in the book, which you know, is obviously not unimportant to me.
Exactly. And what was the most fun or surprising part?
Just that. The fun, the fact, I guess also the fact that I just sort of fell into the role so easily, you know, becoming the sidekick to a sort of a tricky detective. I just sort of naturally grew into that role almost immediately, and I guess that was a surprise. I thought it was going. Maybe the two questions, the question that Catherine has posed, answers itself, because the most difficult part was actually the most fun and the surprising part. That's what I want to say. That actually I loved
Ooh.
being the sidekick.
Oh, excellent. And do you know a real life kind of Hawthorne, Anthony? Do you
I have
is he a
met a
model?
couple, I have worked in television and writing murder mysteries for
Yes.
many, many years. And I
Mm.
have therefore met detectives who've been brought in to be technical advisors. When I did Injustice and Collision and some of my other shows, we had detectives who came in to advise on sort of getting the details right that make it all believable. And so I did get to meet some of these people and to hang out with them and to talk to them. When I was writing these books, I also drew on people who give advice to writers and such things. It's wonderful that there are detectives out there. We had a detective actually talk to us on this very, very conversation. So
Yeah.
it's very nice that these professionals are willing to share their expertise with people like me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Katie would like to know if you could insert your personal character into any other classic murder mystery or crime series, what would it be? Ooh, Katie, cool question. Anthony, give us the scoop.
I would have probably put myself into Lupin. I don't know if you've seen Lupin on Netflix or Lupin.
Yes.
I absolutely adored that show, and
Yes.
if I could insert myself personally into that crime series, it would be into the Lupin books, because I would love to hang out with Lupin. He is such a great character, and that was such a. I used to love the books, which are sort of contemporary to Sherlock Holmes. Incident, they were actually created almost as a sort of the French answer to Sherlock Holmes. I love the 19th century. I would love to hang out with Sherlock Holmes too, of course, but I think I'd probably go for Lupin.
So I loved the Lupin series. If anyone else watched, comment, let us know in the comments. Did you love Lupin? I did. I
Or Lupin. Do you
devoured.
say Lupin or Lupin? What is
I
it
say
for you?
Lupin, but I was trying
Lupin.
to. I was trying
I
to.
know you're smarter than me. You see, there you go. There you go.
No,
But
no,
the
no.
sidekick who can't even pronounce the name of the main character.
What,
Lupin.
Lupin.
Le grand voleur français.
Yeah, I struggled with Le Français, so that was the one class that I dropped when I was
But you got the pronunciation right.
when I was in college, which would, of course, would be University to you. I figured you're closer to France over there in England, so I was following you.
Well,
But
London, Alderney, France. It's not that it's two steps.
so I love the Lupin series. I love that character Omar. I thought was
Wonderful performer. What a great performance.
He so inhabited that character. Talk about unlikable yet lovable. He's made some questionable.
Oh, I think he was lovable, but lovable. Really, I think that there was I mean, yes, maybe he had some issues in his marriage, and he was,
Indeed,
and he was,
did.
after all, sort of on the wrong side of the law for some of that show. But at the same time, that is what you are aiming for. That you to love a character, no matter what his background is, no matter what he's doing. It just that warmth, that emotion. Wonderful show.
Exactly, and the actor was he played it so brilliantly that in spite of being not a great husband / partner and being a chronic philanderer, we still loved him and we're rooting for, and being a thief, we loved him and we're rooting for him and we're on his side. And I actually hosted the editor of the original series on the show and got the inside scoop on what it's like to edit the Penguin Classics.
Oh, that's so wonderful! That's so exciting.
Year-old, yeah, it was fantastic.
Lucky you. Oh, that's amazing. That is, but it also said it helped that the bad guys were so bad. I mean, if you didn't like Lupin, there were certainly plenty of people who really were dislikable and horrible. It was a clever show. I can't wait for the next season. J'adore Lupin. I agree so with you, Laura. Yeah.
Yes, Laurel saying J'adore Lupin. Love it, Laurel, and merci beaucoup for the La Français. Marcy saying Lupin was brilliant. I know. I can't wait they've got to get filming because I need more episodes. Anne Marie chiming in saying, I still don't understand how you can manage so many balls in the air, so many series and projects going all on at the same time. Anne Marie, you and I are vibing. I have been wondering the same thing because look at this brilliant man sitting in front of us. How do you do it? Do you take copious notes? Do you have 50 notebooks sitting next to you? I mean, how does it work?
Anne Marie, first of all, I try not to actually do it all at the same time. I mean, I've talked about one book after another, but I'm not going to do sort of, James Bond in the morning and then, Hawthorne in the afternoon. I try to sort of concentrate on one thing at a time. And it takes me about 6 or 7 months to write a book. So I write one book a year. But what I then do is I spend some time on a TV show, which is a different compartment. I often compare it a little bit like being a teacher. If you're a teacher in a school, you are dealing with lots and lots of balls at the same time, but they're divided. You have different classes, different days, different subjects. You compartmentalize. I think a writer can do the same. And the difference also for me is that I have very long days. I'm here by myself most of the time. My wife is at the moment at work, and I won't get back for a little bit. So I have a lot of time, a lot of hours, just me in a room. And that allows me to get an enormous amount of work done. The other thing, of course, is I absolutely love what I'm doing. I am not working. I am fulfilling the passion and the dream of my life. That is what my books are. And so I can't have enough balls to juggle with. I just love every one of them.
I love that. I am not working. I am fulfilling the passion of my life. I absolutely love that. Did you always feel called to do this work, Anthony? Did you know from the time you were a little boy?
Sarah, I knew without any doubt at all when I was 10 years old that I was going to be a writer. My teachers told me I was no good at anything else, so that was part of the argument for it. You know, I was bottom of every class at school. I was a very unsuccessful child. But when I had a book in my hand, when I was in the library, when I was reading, whether it was the C.S. Lewis books, the Narnia books, or Willard Price, the adventure stories that he wrote, wonderful Canadian naturalist who wrote about two kids traveling around the world, I was happy. You know, that to me, I opened a book and the book became like a door that I went through into another world. And as a result of that, I started telling the kids in my school stories. That's what I did. It was a boarding school, so I was in a dormitory. I was telling these kids stories that I made up every night. And as a result of that, I became popular. I made friends. And I thought, oh, I found the one thing I'm good at. And this is something I say when I go to schools and visit young people. I always say this: there is no such thing on this planet as an untalented child. Every child has a talent. Some have many, many talents. I had just one. But if you find the thing you love doing and do it in your life, you will be happy. And that's what I did. I knew age 10, I'm going to be a writer, and I've done it ever since, pretty much.
Oh, I love that, Anthony. I love that. Let's get over to some of the reviews of this book. Publishers Weekly, of course, awarding you a starred review, calling this an effortless blend of humor and fair play. The often prickly relationship between the Watson-like Horowitz and the Holmes-like Hawthorne complements the intricate detective work worthy of a golden age whodunit. What a fabulous review, because it feels like that's exactly, they've honed in on exactly the heart of this book. Let's take it bit by bit. So we've already covered the fact that you're very funny. They're honing in on that sense of humor, saying the fair play, the often prickly relationship between Holmes and Holmes like Hawthorne complements the intricate detective work. Let's talk about the intricate detective work. As you are weaving this intricate detective work, do you plot it out? You're like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then we circle back. I plant this clue for the reader on page 10, and then I'm going to come back to it on page 54. How do you do that?
Sarah, I start with a notebook. I write everything down in a notebook, and I sometimes will write 20, 30, 40 pages, and I'll spend maybe 3 or 4 months planning the book, planning almost every aspect of it. You know, it's not just the murder and the solution, but all the subsidiary characters, the clues, the red herrings, the connections. What's really important for me is that I play fair with the reader. But every single clue and anything that Hawthorne can, you know, use to deduce the nature, the name and the identity of the killer is in plain sight. I don't like to cheat. Even Doyle occasionally cheats. Holmes disappears from the page and gets information that is not available to us. And as much as I love Holmes and Doyle, I don't do that. So everything's got to be there. It's, you know, I worship Agatha Christie, of course, who was the genius when it came to putting it all there in plain sight, that every clue, when you get to the end of an Agatha Christie, you either kick yourself because you didn't get it, or you smile smugly because you did. But either way, you enjoy it because the author has played fair with you. That's what I try to do. And it is a case of just weaving it all together. And then in the second and the third draft, I of course can add extra clues. I can weave new lines into it if things aren't clear. Worse than that, actually, I have to make a confession. My wife reads the book as soon as I finish writing it. If she guesses the ending, I'll ask her, how did you guess it? And then I'll make changes, because I don't want, you know, I might take out a clue or remove something to make it more difficult to guess the ending. It's the first question I ask, actually, is when someone's read my book, not did you enjoy it, did you guess it?
And does your wife often guess it? What's your batting average?
Well, actually, my wife is quite good at not guessing it. But then my agent, I have an agent who is what's the word for it? A lot more into murder mystery. So he
Mm.
can spot sometimes where I'm going with it. And my editor too, Selena, she's pretty sharp when it comes to sort of the clues. So I have to, I listen to all of them and make changes where necessary. My wife, who is brilliant and who does all my productions with me, isn't such a murder mystery fan that she knows the sort of all the genres. So I can sometimes get by. I can sometimes deceive her more easily.
Yeah, exactly. Or you see her getting to page 12 and you happen to offer her a glass of wine.
I'll put the glass of wine on the book so she can't read the paragraph that might give her game away.
Yeah, very good, clever. That's good. That's good. Leslie said she agrees with your analogy about how you keep all those balls in the air about a teacher. She says, I am an educator and people are quick to look at the child's negative. Oh, sorry. She's talking now about the talentless child. I was wrongly attributing it to the many projects balls in the air. She said she sees the good and she looks for their skills. What are they best at? What are they able to do?
Leslie, I'm so in agreement with what you just said. That is such a wonderful thing because, when I was a kid at school, things were different then. We didn't have educators like you, and teachers could just simply, hurt and damage and put down and alienate kids and say I can't tell you how many teachers told me I would never amount to anything, I would never succeed. And I myself have visited schools in some of the less privileged parts of this country and met kids and have praised what they have done, their writing, their way they talk to me, whatever, and I look in their eyes and I can see that actually hearing somebody praising them is something that doesn't happen very often. It's something that they're not used to. And a little light comes on. And I just think to myself, it is so easy to encourage kids. Why should you, as you say, look for the negative? There's no need to. Find the positive, accentuate it, give kids inspiration and encouragement. It's what I've been doing all my life. Sarah,
Sorry,
I've
I
lost
was
you.
muted. I was muted there because I didn't want you to hear the clacking of my computer as I was about to type in the link to buy this book. Anthony, I love that perspective, although I'm very disheartened to hear that teachers were so unkind.
Sarah, I have nothing but respect for teachers now. Don't forget, I was educated in the 60s and 70s. I mean, a very long time ago when the rules were different. A lot of the teachers who taught me were themselves unhappy individuals who had come out of the war, some of them, and had been damaged by that. So, it just happened the way it did. But as I say, I found books, I found writing, I found stories, and they've been my lifeline throughout my life. I make no complaints.
Oh, I love that. Everybody, I want to remind you that this book is out tomorrow. We are getting the inside scoop from Anthony right now. But this book is out tomorrow and you can pre-order it right now from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore, one of 3 dedicated mystery bookstores in the country, the incredible, the renowned Murder by the Book, which I was thrilled to collaborate with starting this summer. And you can grab your copy. It will ship out tomorrow and you too can be enjoying A Line to Kill and this wonderful Hawthorne and Horowitz, Holmes and Watson team again heading to Albany to solve the murders there. So grab your copy. The link is right there in the comments, and you can support a woman-owned bookstore and get your copy of this fabulous book.
And can I add to that, Sarah, that you could always find me on Twitter. So if you do get the ending, you can let me know, and you can also tell me what you thought of the book, and I will get back to you. I always love to hear from my readers on Twitter.
Oh, okay, Anthony, that is such a great idea. Okay, so everybody go buy the book and then we will reconvene. You can tweet at Anthony. Hold on, I'm going to put the link to his Twitter. Here it is. Hang out with Anthony on Twitter and follow him in general because he's just fabulous. So follow in general. Laurel Wall is in saying she is adding it to her cart as we speak. Laurel, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurel. That's so kind.
And then we will tweet at Anthony and let him know if we have guessed it. I mean, listen, we're all mystery fans here. We're all mystery and thriller mavens and fans and readers. So it'll be very curious to see if we did. And then we will continue the conversation over in my Facebook group, free and open to all, where you can request your favorite authors for interviews. You can submit questions in advance, and you can enter to win free books. So hop over over there and join my Facebook group, Mystery and Thriller Mavens, free and open to all. Anthony, what's your favorite scene in this book without any spoilers?
Oh, that's tricky. My favorite scene in the book, it's probably the discovery of the body.
Okay.
It's such a sort of a weird way for somebody to have to breathe their last breath on this planet, and I just love the sort of the peculiarity of it. So that's one of my favorite scenes, anyway.
Was that your favorite to read or to write?
To write it, because it's got a sort of an enigma in it. Is why has this happened? What is going on here? And there are so many different explanations given for it in the book as to what really happened before you get to the actual truth, that it sort of sets everything up. So that was quite fun. It's just unusual. That's why.
And what is your favorite scene to read? Is it the same one or is it different?
I think my favorite scene to read is going to be the. I'm afraid I can't really talk about it too much because it is actually the solution.
Okay,
the actual scene of a solution. Well, it's right at the very end because that's when you get to the solution of the thing. But I like it because, as I hinted at earlier, it's not the classic sort of you did it, you're guilty. There's something else happening in there, which I think is interesting.
Okay, so everybody, you heard it here first on Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Anthony's favorite scene to write was the discovery of the body, because where there was an enigma. It's an unusual way to take your last breath on the planet. And his favorite scene to read is at the end, the solution of the crime. So when you read this book, hop into Mystery and Thriller Mavens or tweet at Anthony or both and tell him, A, did you guess it? And B, are these your favorite scenes as well? On that note, Anthony, any parting words you'd like to share? Anything you wish I had asked you? What would you like to leave us with this year?
I just want to say to you, Sarah, that it's been a real pleasure talking to you again. Thank you so much for having me back on your wonderful show. And I want to just wish everybody well, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading. The world is never a bad place when you've got a book in your hands. That's what I want to say.
Oh, I love that. I love that. The world is never a bad place when you've got a book in your hands. E-Truck saying, Anthony and Sarah, thank you so much for this amazing chat. It's been so inspiring and fun. Thank you so much for joining us. So great to have you. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Laurel saying, Sarah's the best interviewer.
I agree with that, Laurel.
Oh, Laurel, you're so kind. Thank you so much. Incredible to have you here. That she's an incredible fashion influencer. I'm so honored to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Marcy saying this was so inspirational for her own work. Great to hear, Marcy.
I wish you every success, Marcy.
Yay. Jody saying it's been so great. Thank you. Leslie saying thank you. Her break is over. She's back to educating the children. That quote about the reading, though. Yes, Anthony, I'm going to put that in. I'm going to pop that in. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'm going to leave us on the note of the world is never a bad place with a book in your hand. Anthony, thank you.
I'm going to change that. The world is never such a bad place. That sounds better. The world is never such a bad place. Because it's all about our expectations and how we see the world, and it's never such a bad place when you're reading a book.
Oh, I love it, and I love it even more now that you've edited it, because
it's not so easy to come up with the exact words when you're talking. It's easier when you're writing. But still, Sarah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And Anthony, since you put out a book a year, we will see you back next year on Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, and I will see you later. And Laurel saying, nice edit, Anthony. This is such a great quote.
That's the writer.
And we get to see the Horowitz process in real time here in front of us, creating, writing, and editing in real time. A glimpse at Anthony at his desk. All right, everybody, have a great day. I will see you all tonight at 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern with Megan Collins and Clea Simon. And Anthony, we will see you, sir, next year. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.